So today the topic is grace. Once during correspondence with Nirodha, Sri Aurobindo used to teasingly call him the man of sorrows because he used to be complaining, cribbing, my pace of yoga is slow, why I'm not like the others, why poetry is not flowing. So basically, he would just be wrapping himself in these vibrations. So Sri Aurobindo told him in one such occasion, you have to remember only two things. That is the soul within and the grace above. Only these two things, the soul within and the grace above. In this, everything else is included. Even Sri Aurobindo's symbol we have, right? That soul within aspiring towards the light and the grace which descends from the descending triangle in Sri Aurobindo's symbol. Even in the book, The Mother, this very two important things Sri Aurobindo is beautifully told. There are two powers that alone can effect in their conjunction the great and difficult thing which is the aim of our endeavor. A fixed and unfailing aspiration that calls from below and the supreme grace from above that answers. Fixed and unfailing aspiration that calls from below and the supreme grace from above that answers. And again, Sri Aurobindo will clarify, he'll say, this grace, the supreme grace, will act only in conditions of light and truth. It will not act in conditions of falsehood and ignorance. But the divine's way, his play is sometimes even ignorantly we feel that he is only carrying us, he plays with us. But all our selfish motives, egocentric attitudes, we cannot expect the grace to always act when we are not that open that we want only the grace. Mother has said that even if the whole world turns its back and refuses the divine light, and even there's a single soul aspiring and calling and the truest aspiration that it wants only the divine, and the divine will descend, will be there for that single soul, because all it needs is that true aspiration and it's ready to come. Mother says the divine grace is ready to act at every moment, but it manifests as one grows out of the law of ignorance into the law of light. And she says, it's not simply a mysterious flow or touch coming from above, but the all-pervading act of a divine presence, which we come to know within as the power of the highest self and master of our being, entering into the soul and so possessing it that we not only feel it close to us and pressing upon our mortal nature, but live in its law, know the law, possess it as the whole power of our spiritualized nature. She's saying it's not that one mysterious moment, one touch. That touch of the grace will help us find that highest self inside us, which is the master of the being. Then everything is grace. If we tend to obey that true law, all life is bliss, all life is just being carried by the divine. And in Savitri, there are beautiful lines. This grace, this power, the divine is willing to act, but we must allow him to. So the line is, a power that lives upon the heights must act. Bring into life's closed room the immortal's air and fill the finite with the infinite. A power that lives upon the heights must act. Bring into life's closed room the immortal's air and fill the finite with the infinite. Even in our normal living, if we live in a closed room without any light, without any air, suffocating, right? It should be that we are suffocated because we are not getting enough of the divine. So it is that personal effort is required from us to open our windows, allow the sun, allow the air to flow into our being. And somewhere Sri Aurobindo says, like how air is always there, the divine is always there. And for you to feel the divine, it is not that there should be a cyclonic activity or like heavy winds, oh, now air is really there. It's not like that. Like air, the divine is there. He shouldn't come in such a, say very Raudra Bhava to prove himself that he's there. That also he'll come and do, like how he did for Prahalad. But we have to just acknowledge that grace is there. All we have to do is open to that grace, allow that immortal air to flow into our being and deeply call for it, and just be in gratitude that it is there. And say similar, this is all an adoration of the Divine Mother, and he says beautiful lines here. All that denies must be torn out and slain, and crushed the many longings for whose sake we lose the one for whom our lives were made. All that denies must be torn out and slain, and crushed the many longings for whose sake we lose the one for whom our lives were made. So all that we cherish, all that we run after, all the desires and our own weaknesses, which we nourish sometimes and we unknowingly, all that we have to push aside, crush it, and make place for that one, because our spirit came down for that. It can live in its blissful heavens, with the mother in the higher planes. But we chose this adventure. We chose to come down and realize that on earth, Mother has said, earth is a very special place for heroic souls. It's one special place where progress is happening towards the divine. So all of us are those warriors. We have forgotten ourselves. Our aim is in all this to get back to our source, get back to our light, get back to the divinity we are. And there are many beautiful instances also how grace can pick up anyone and turn him to the divine light. There's a beautiful story of Tulsidas, many of you must have heard. So, when Tulsidas is not yet the sage he was, uh, so one once his one occasion his wife went to her mother's place. So he was longing for her, and he desperately went behind. She was already there for a few days. He was missing her so much, and he couldn't, you know, he wanted her to be with him. So he goes to the somewhere, reaches in the middle of the night, and she's living in a higher floor, and he's there. It's like raining, he's drenched, and he sees something like a long rope like thing, and he climbs on it. And actually it is a snake, which he didn't know, but it helped him climb. Great, he used it. And his wife, seeing him in that state, is like, if you were to find the divine in the same desperation, the divine would have come to you. You know, the same kind of that restlessness, and this kind of spirit of going after and getting it. If you found the divine like this, he would simply give himself to you. And that one word, one line turned him around. And because of that, we know like what a beautiful bhakta of Ram he was, what beautiful, poetry and all that he's given us. Very, very beautiful. So, Mother Sri Aurobindo tells us that this grace can pick up anybody and, turn him around and make him realize, that his path is truly made for the divine only. And even we all know Valmiki, before he became Valmiki, so he was a robber, thief, something like a gunda in that region. And once, I don't know the exact details. Um, so he did come across some learned person, and he said, "Why are you doing this? Simply just take the name of Ram, Ram. You know how much your life will blossom, and you don't need to do what you're currently doing." Even saying the name of Ram was difficult for him. He used to say the ulta of it, like Mari Mati Solli, he say Mara, 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 like that. Mara, 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 Mara became Rama, Rama, Rama. So the Lord doesn't care even if the name is told in a reverse way. Ultimately, it comes back to the same original sound only. So then we know Valmiki, and we are all indebted to him for bringing us the Ramayana. So in this connection, I'll just give some more examples. And we all know little Krishna's story, when Yashoda Ma ties him to a tree. He's being adamant, and she gets a little angry with him, and in a way of punishing him, she ties him to a tree. Two trees in that place rather, and these two trees has the spirits of uh, these two people, like who were sons of Kubera, and Narada had cursed them. So in this Janma, when Krishna, in Dwapar Yuga, when Krishna was there, they were cursed that you would be in the tree, but you will be released when a divine being simply touches you. So it's all like a play. Krishna would have purposely made Yashoda do it for, for the sake of releasing his children from that curse. So he goes and he gets tied to the tree, and they get released. So the touch of the divine, that grace which comes every time, and also the grace which Yashoda Ma had, having the Lord as her son. And there's a very beautiful Tamil and very beautiful song Goes like, Enna tavam seidane Yashoda, the Parabrahma is calling you Amma. So beautiful. Like, Enna tavam seidane, like, what tapasya, what have you done for Parabrahma to call you, address you as Amma? So just the grace everywhere, and like, the grace can pick up anybody, everybody deserves that grace. So we'll come to some questions which sadhaks had asked Sri Aurobindo. Am I right in thinking that the mother as an individual embodies all the divine powers and brings down the grace more and more to the physical plane? Sri Aurobindo says yes. Mother embodies all divine powers and brings down the grace more and more to the physical plane. Then he asks, what punya of ours has the grace granted to us, mere humans, this rare privilege of coming here at the divine's feet? What punya of ours, we are mere humans, what a rare privilege that we are here at the divine's feet. So Sri Aurobindo was saying, it is the call of your soul that brought you here, and also some aspiration or connection with the mother and myself in past lives. It is the call of your soul that brought you here, and also some aspiration or connection with the mother and myself in past lives. So all of us here will belong to this one of this category, a deep call of the soul, and also being connection with Mother and Sri Aurobindo in our past lives. What sort of bhakti in my past lives has brought me to the Mother's feet? The aspiration for union with the divine, and perhaps also for the descent of the divine on the earth. The aspiration for union with the divine, and perhaps also the descent of the divine on the earth. There are many things that have brought it about. A connection in past lives with the mother and myself, the development of your nature in former births, which made it possible for you to seek the divine. Bhakti in those lives bearing its fruit now. Finally, the divine grace. Bhakti in those lives bearing its fruit now. Finally, the divine grace. Mother Sri Aurobindo has been holding us not only in this life, many lives, to be in their shelter, to bring that divine on earth, just using us. It's the divine one in many bodies. And Mother has told, no, it's the divine selection. During a playground talk, she would say, the divine selection. You have selected, the soul has selected to be here when this beautiful moment of earth, when the divine himself has descended as dual avatars, is to be here and help out in the divine's work. Like how all the Vanaras and all the creatures helped Rama. So we are all here. It can be many reasons, or don't need to even look at reasons. They have been holding us in whatever forms they were in, and now we are continuing to be with them. Once MP Pandit ji asked Kapali Shastri ji, and Kapali Shastri ji had done several forms of yoga, lot of intense sadhana and tapasyas and different paths he had taken. So then MP Pandit ji asked, so what is your siddhi? Like, what have you achieved and now you're here? It's like Kapali Shastri ji says, though have done all this, each of this, helped me to be at the feet of the mother. That is my siddhi. in his own right, he will be, the peak of all the other paths he did. But all this helped him to come. There were steps for him to be at the mother's feet. That's the ultimate. He had to do all this to be at the mother's feet. There are so many beautiful instances, even among us. There'll be how we all came to Mother Sri Aurobindo. It will be very, very interesting stories. And I'm reading, some of you may be aware, this book, Sham Kumari Ji. She has 5 volumes, How I Came to the Mother. So in each volume, some 20, 30 stories are there. So I've been reading that, and like really unbelievable instances how like 1 second, one glance of Mother Sri Aurobindo's picture has drawn that person, made him come to the ashram, like surrender his life, be in the ashram like for multiple years, like during Mother Sri Aurobindo being there in the physical body. One instance, as a small college boy, the professor, he was a follower of Mother Sri Aurobindo, and one day his wallet just happened to fall down, and this particular boy picked it up, and then he saw a photo of Sri Aurobindo. Then he got very curious. Who is this? I'm very attracted. In that one instance, then he gets into understanding how to go about it, what are the books, how to go to Pondicherry, how to write to the mother to get permission for the darshan and everything, and then he gets taken by mother, something like that. So there are so many beautiful instances. I think Amal Kiranda, he saw a small little article, a little post, Sri Aurobindo study circle or something like that, on a newspaper. That paper, in fact, it had, he got it from a shoe store where his shoe was packed in. So, how the divine finds you. So, it's like that, how he plays with us. Read some lines of Savitri again. Someone came, infinite and absolute, a being of wisdom, power, and delight. Even as a mother draws her child to her arms, took to her breast nature and world and soul. So the mother, her grace, she just picks us up, takes the whole world in her lap, every nature, every soul, the mother of innumerable souls, the mother of all Godheads. What a blessing, what a grace we all have. Sri Aurobindo says, I have repeatedly spoken of the divine grace. I have referred any number of times to this line of the Gita. I will deliver thee from all sin and evil. Do not grieve. Just surrender to me. I'll deliver thee from all sin and evil. Do not grieve. And very beautifully, Sri Aurobindo talks about getting attracted to Sri Krishna's flute, that he just told us about the bhakti in so many lives, and that gets carried on and gets its fulfillment. Very beautifully, he says here, to say that it does not depend on outward merit or appearance of fitness is no doubt true. The something that was ready to wake, in spite, it may be, of many hard layers in which it was enclosed, may be something visible to Krishna and not to us. So when we feel the grace, when we turn to the grace, turn to the divine, something wakes up in us. That soul is ready, though there may be many hard layers. That soul is enveloped in hard layers, but it is those layers are visible to Krishna but not to us. Even now, when we feel, uh, not every time we are in that blissful state, joyful state, state of, beautiful aspiration, or even in those low points, stagnation, and all that, still there is a hand of grace. It's because there are so hard layers that the divine is piercing, piercing, piercing. We don't feel it. It's there, and the divine is working with that metal to, make it into that diamond. And he continues to say, it was there perhaps long before the flute began to play, but he was busy melting the hard layers so that the heart in its leap might not be pressed back by them when the awakening notes come. He's making us ready to receive the flute. The flute has been playing, and slowly as our being, gets transparent, loosens up, not so hard. We are, because we have heard it some time back, and we are making ourselves ready to receive that notes. When suddenly that awakening comes, it's not that shocking. The gopis heard and rushed out into the forest. The others did not. Or did they think it was only some rustic music or some rude cowherd lover fluting to his sweetheart? Not a call that learned and cultured or virtuous ears could recognize as the call of the divine. The learned, cultural, virtuous ears could not recognize that it was the call of the divine. Then Krishna plays the flute, but the gopis recognized. They rushed into the forest. Who is this player? Who's that luring us to him? You can just picturize this. Like Krishna with his cowherds casually playing the flute, going in the forest joyfully, and this group of gopis rushing to him, and somewhere I'd heard, and Krishna's passing by playing the flute. So many gopis are like householders, and there were these examples given. So one of them is like wearing her kajal. She's just halfway doing it, and somebody is attending to her child, plaiting the hair, and somebody else kitchen the pal pongardu. But Krishna, the one sound they hear and they go rush, leaving everything else. So beautiful. So, like, what should we do, to make ourselves like moldable, pliable, easy for that grace to act on us? Even opening ourselves so much, all the hard layers, everything opening, showing it to the divine. And how can we collaborate with this grace? We all know these three words repeatedly comes, no? Aspiration, rejection, and surrender. If these three are done, the rest is to come by itself, come of itself by the grace of the mother and the working of her force in you. But of the three, the most important is surrender, of which the first necessity is trust and confidence and patience. So aspiring, rejecting all that is unnecessary, all the lower moments, clearing the way for the divine to come, surrender, that baby cat. The mother cat holds the baby by the neck and moves around, and the baby cat is complete surrender. When mother is holding me, what? Why should I really be taking care of anything? I can just look around, see the views, enjoy, After all, it's not my responsibility. Mother is holding me. There is only one thing needed to make anyone fit for the mother's grace. It is a perfect sincerity and a truthful openness to the mother in all the being. It is a perfect sincerity and truthful openness to the mother in all the being. These words we are casually reading, but we have to put it little by little in practice. Perfect sincerity, that we need the divine in all parts of our being. Only the divine matters. And that truthful opening up, being frank, transparent, not hiding anything, like Sri Aurobindo tells us, the mother is there, mother is always watching. That's the rule of the ashram, right? It is written, I think, in the dining room. So don't do anything which you feel that you want to hide from the mother. She's always there and looking after. The principal thing is in the yoga is to trust the divine grace at every step, to direct that thought continually to the divine, to offer oneself till the being opens up and the mother's force can work well in the adhara. Every step, continually think of the divine and offering oneself to him. I heard a very beautiful anecdote. This is Anandamayi Ma, and she tells she was in constant communion with the divine, but there would be these brief moments of not, calling or remembering. So, for example, she had to walk from one room to another room, and she realized that she's not called the divine, not called the mother. She'll go back, then start from where she left, again walk to that room, remembering, offering every step. This thing really touched me, that being so conscious. When mothers says, in the embroidery department, I think I've shared with your group also, and she says, in every stitch, if you call me ma, 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 every stitch, it's like you're doing a japa of the mother, in your work also. And she used to see what parts was done in consecration, calling her and doing, remembering her and doing the same embroidery piece, and what parts were done just chatting with somebody or thinking of something else. So mother would recognize that. And even outwardly, maybe that part is not as beautiful, but mother would recognize it. And mother says to have faith in the grace and an aspiration. And if one does what a little child would do when it runs to its mother and says, Mama, give me this. Like have that faith like a little child. Go to the mother and give me this, give me that, with simplicity. Turns to the grace and says, give me this, give me this. I believe it listens unless one asks for something that is not good for one. Then it does not listen. If one asks from it something that does harm or is not favorable, it does not listen. Perhaps one was destined to call. Says even this calling for the grace, even there, somewhere the destiny acts, destined to even call. Though she says here that if you ask for something which the grace will feel, it is not required for your progress, it will not give. But the vital being in us will get depressed, dejected. That should not be. And even if somewhere she would say a difficulty is thrown at you, you have to, life is giving you that challenge. Then, after a later point, you would realize that event which you felt so bad about, it, it didn't work out at all. But the same event, as an afterthought, you would think, okay, this helped me. This happened because this later happened, and nothing is in vain. Whatever happens, if you take it as the prasad from the divine, He will make it so. And she says this faith is so important. Most people lack in faith. There's always a tiny corner in the thought which doubts and debates, so that spoils everything. It is only just when one is in an absolutely critical situation, when the mind realizes that it can do nothing, absolutely nothing, when it stands there quite stupid and incapable, then at that moment, if one aspires for a higher help, the aspiration is exactly that kind of intensity which comes from despair, and that takes effect. Even then, if you feel you have all your options, you have tried every path, you've tried, contacted all the people you know, and then you reach out for the divine and you aspire in that ardent aspiration, come, 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 like that. Even there, the divine listens and he will come and help you. And also, if the divine has intervened and helped you, just, got you out of that difficult situation, there are people, many of us would think that, oh, I cured myself, by my capability, and I am so good that I could come out of this, my brilliance and everything. Even there, we will not give any credit to the grace. So that's why she'll say that gratitude is so important. I mean, day to day, it's generally going so smoothly, but only when some kind of wrong happens, something, happens are not according to your liking, that we call the grace. But every day when everything is going so smoothly, we barely remember, we don't give that much gratitude to the divine, Mother would say. And this situation when she talks about when you're desperate, like only he should come. There's so many instances in our ashram context. Once, not that the ashramites would call her as the last resort, they would always call her as the first. Um, so once I think Udarda, he was traveling in a train, and the train was derailed. Just Udarda and few other compartments somehow escaped. It didn't get tangled and all. And he comes back and tells mother, yeah, I was calling you. I knew there's something going to happen, and you saved us. And she said, I didn't know which bogie you were in, so I had to save the rest of the train as well. Something like that. So it's also important when we communicate to the mother and she says, no, open yourself, be sincere, show her everything, all the little things to the detail when you're traveling. Tell her I'm going in this transport, I'm going with this people, this is the flight number, train number, bogie number. Tell her like how you tell. And mother, she used to send all these sadhaks for picnic and all that. She would need a particulars of everything. A report had to be sent to her. So why not? We continue to do that. She's aware, and that develops a deeper relationship with us and the mother also. And we'll read some lines on difficulties, the acting of the grace. So when difficulties besiege you, know that the grace is within you. People believe that grace means making everything smooth all your life. It is not true. The grace works for the realization of your aspiration, and everything is arranged to gain the most prompt and quickest realization. Everything is arranged to make the most prompt and quickest realization. There are beautiful lines in Savitri. So Sri Aurobindo would say, don't feel that you're just abandoned, you're helpless, and you're put into these difficulties. You don't know what to do. But there's that hand, the outstretched hand of the divine is always there. Read them. Alive in a dead rotating universe, we whirl not here upon a casual globe, abandoned to a task beyond our force, even through the tangled anarchy called fate, and through the bitterness of death and fall, an outstretched hand is felt upon our lives. An outstretched hand is felt upon our lives. This line is so beautiful and touching. Outstretched hand. The divine is making all the effort to help his child. He's just not extending his hand, he's stretching it, for his child and to carry him, to make him safe, to make him feel supported. It is near us in unnumbered bodies and births. It is in its unshaken grasp, it keeps for us safe the one inevitable supreme result. No will can take away and no doom change the crown of conscious immortality. The Godhead promised to our struggling souls. The Godhead promised to our struggling souls. When first man's heart dared death and suffered life. Mother says how to tackle difficulties. When suffering comes, fly, fly, instead of absorbing the difficulty, instead of holding tight, that is to say, not stirring within, not yielding. Yes, above all, not yielding when you feel within, I cannot bear it any longer. Hold your head as quiet as possible. Do not follow the movement. Do not obey the vibration. Do not follow the vibration of the suffering. Get out of it. Fly, fly, soar. Soar to the higher level. Call the mother. Be in her lap. Hold your head high. Keep your mind quiet. Don't get into the vibration of that suffering. That is what is needed. Just that. Faith in the grace, perception of the grace, or else intensity of call, or better still, the response, the not opening, breaking, the response of this wonderful love of the grace, the not opening, breaking, the response to this wonderful love of the grace. Just read one more passage and we can close. I have said somewhere, or maybe written, that no matter how great your faith and trust in the divine grace, no matter how great your capacity to see it at work in all circumstances, at every moment, at every point in life, you will never succeed in understanding the marvelous immensity of its action. You will never understand the marvelous immensity of its action and the precision, the exactitude with which this action is accomplished. You will never be able to grasp to what extent the grace does everything, is behind everything, organizes everything, conducts everything, so that the march forward to the divine realization may be as swift, as complete, as total and harmonious as possible, considering the circumstances of the world. This grace makes you march forward to the divine realization. Make it as swift, as complete, as total and harmonious as possible, considering the circumstances of the world. As soon as you're in contact with it, there is not a second in time, not a point in space which does not show you dazzlingly this perpetual work of the grace, this constant intervention of the grace. And once you have seen this, you feel you are never equal to it, for you should never forget it. never have any fears, any anguish, any regrets, any recoils, or even suffering. If one were in union with this grace, if one saw it everywhere, one would begin living a life of exaltation, of all power, of infinite happiness. Union with this grace will lead us to that exaltation, all power of infinite happiness. We'll end with a small story, and divine goes to the extent of saying that the grace can annul the karma also. So it's a question. You have said here that we are tied to a chain of karma. Then sometimes the divine grace acts that contradicts completely. The divine grace completely contradicts karma. It makes it melt away like butter that's put in the sun. All the karmic equations that we carry, with that divine grace, we can change our destiny, our fate, to make us more close to Him. And it'll melt like butter under the sun, Mother says. There comes in a new factor, the divine grace, the help of the higher divine force other than the force of karma, which can lift the sadhak beyond the present possibilities of his nature. Once Champaklalji offered to wash Sri Aurobindo's dhoti, and after he washed, Sri Aurobindo said, "Now I've erased all your karmas." That small act, the divine recognizes and he gives him such a great boon. So we don't need to get into this cycle of cause, effect, and that must have happened. That's why this is happening, all that. Just open ourselves to this grace and just be looking forward to the light, marching towards the light, knowing that Mother and Sri Aurobindo are carrying us. And last line, no human will can finally prevail against the divine's will. Let us put ourselves deliberately and exclusively on the side of the divine, and the victory is ultimately certain. Let us put ourselves deliberately and exclusively on the side of the divine, and the victory is ultimately certain. Thank you all so much.